let's start at the top of the 195. After this, the gate was closed on the era of roots. And what we learned was that God divided humanity in an era, E-R-A, of roots, and at which time the human being could essentially change himself, improve himself. The gate was open, but at a certain point, that gate was closed and humanity was fixed in its position. Wherever each human being or each group of human beings reached, that was what they were, and no longer would they be able to essentially change themselves. And all of their children, all of their descendants would be exactly as they were. So again, I read inside, after this, the gate was closed on the era of roots. Things would then be directed and brought about upon individuals as branches, each one according to his nature. Even though it may seem that man was originally the same as he is now, there is actually a great difference. Before the generation of separation, man existed in the age of roots and was dealt with accordingly. When this period ended, things were judged and made permanent, and the new age began. This is the age of branches, which still exists. That's where we are today. We are branches. And we are branches, of course. Fortunately, we're branches of a very good root. That root was Abraham. There were three human beings that created that root. Primarily, it was Abraham Avinu. Abraham, he was the first human being that succeeded in returning or in restoring the original pre-sin dignity of the human being that God originally created. Abraham was the first. He accomplished part. His son Yitzchak accomplished a different part. And then his grandson Yaakov completed the job. That was Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov completed the restoration of the human form back to its original pre-sin dignified stature. That was Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. The reason why we needed three is probably, I'm almost sure, but I can't say I'm 100% sure. The reason why we needed three was because it's interesting to see how God created us. He didn't create us, even though He is one, He did not create us as a unitary, singular creature. He created us with a right and with a left and with a body in between to join the right and the left. In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a right. The right is the giving, the left is the restraint, and the harmony between the two is truly what Hashem wanted, and that's Yaakov Avinu. That's why Yaakov had two names. Are you familiar? The word Yaakov comes from what word? Do you know? If not, I'll tell you. What? Ekev. Ekev. What does Ekev mean in Hebrew? Would you know? The Ekev means the heel. Right? It's fascinating to note that in the name, what was when Yaakov's name was changed, so it was changed to Yisrael, correct?
Yeah.
The three middle letters of Yisrael spell what word? You have Shin or Sin, Resh, Aleph. If I rearrange them slightly, Rosh, head. So in other words, Yaakov's change of name was not like Avraham. Avraham also had a change of name. But his change of name was not a change of the name, it was an addition to the name. A letter was added to his name. His name was originally Avram, Avram, and it was changed to Avraham. A hey was added. Whereas Yaakov's name was changed entirely from Yaakov to Yisrael. Yaakov is the Ekev, the heel, the lowest part of the human form. Yisrael contains within it the letters Rosh, right, which is the top of the human form. That was Yaakov. Yaakov was both the right and the left. He was also the bottom and the top. It's interesting that Avram Avinu had one primary wife, Sarah, and Yitzchak had one wife, literally one wife, Rivka. Yaakov had two wives. He had two primary wives. He had another two that were sort of concubines, but he had Rachel and Leah, two wives. He wanted to marry only Rachel, but he Basof ultimately married Rachel and Leah, because Yaakov is truly a dual personality. Yaakov has the right of Avram, the chesed, and we call that chesed and gvura. In other words, chesed is to do good for others. Gvura is restraint. We are obligated to be expansive, to expand, to do, right? But on the other hand, there aren't only positive mitzvahs in the Torah. There are also negative mitzvahs. There are things that we're not allowed to do that we have to refrain from doing. So a person has to have a right that does, and you need a left to restrain, and when the two work together, you can write. If you just have your right hand, cholila, so it's very, very difficult to write. Right? That's everything in life is like that. So that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't want singular unitarianism, because, of course, if it's all it is one, it's one. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to show that his oneness is a oneness that can combine and unify two extremely different things, the right and the left, giving, restraining. And that's called, in Hebrew, as we said yesterday, that's called beauty. That's called tiferet. Avram's midah is chesed. Yitzchak's midah, Yitzchak's attribute is gvura, and Yaakov is called tiferet. Tiferet means beauty. Okay, I'm going to read on. 4. God's great love and goodness decreed that the branches of other nations still be given a chance, even though they could no longer change themselves. They were fixed into what they had achieved, and all humanity remained at the lower level. Nonetheless, God's great love and goodness decreed that the branches of other nations still be given a chance. If they so desired, they still had the free choice to tear themselves loose from their own roots and through their own actions include themselves among the branches of Abraham's family. That's what we call today conversion. A non-Jew can become a Jew through proper conversion, right? So God left, even though he fixed humanity into each nation, into their level, with their individual characteristic, nonetheless, he left the door open that any human being from any nation can attach itself and become a branch of Abraham's family. That's what we call today conversion, gay root. It's in Hebrew. This is what God meant when he told Abraham, all the families of the earth will be blessed through you. Abraham was thus made the father of all converts. A Jew, a non-Jew that converts, whatever name he assumes, whatever Hebrew name he assumes, he's called the son of Abraham. When he's called up to the Torah, he's called the son of Abraham. I read on. This, however, would require effort on the part of the individuals concerned. It requires great effort for a non-Jew to convert to Judaism. It's something that we greatly discourage, and a Gentile, a non-Jew, could be a righteous Gentile a lot easier than being a righteous Jew. And there is no requirement on the non-Jews, on the Gentiles, in any way that they should become Jewish. It's completely voluntary, and the initiative must come from the person himself. And on the contrary, even when one does come to convert, there is a great effort, or they try to convince him that it's not necessary. It's not necessary for a Gentile to become Jewish. Without such efforts, they would remain attached to their own roots and retain their natural characteristics. I read on. It is also necessary to realize that each individual tree is also divided, very much as the descendants of Adam were divided into root, trees, and branches. Primary branches can thus be distinguished in each individual tree, and these branches are then differentiated to yield their particular members. So even in a tree, so all the branches share, of course, the characteristics of the trunk of the tree, and the trunk of the tree surely has the qualities and the characteristics of the roots. But nonetheless, a branch could have smaller branches, larger branches, straight branches, bent branches, all kinds of branches there could be. So even amongst Abraham's descendants, which Abraham was chosen to be this very special tree, Abraham succeeded in returning back to the original dignity at which the human being was created. So Abraham's tree consisted of 600,000 main branches. Where did he get that number from? That number comes from the number of people that left Egypt. We were 600,000 when we left But at the time of the Exodus, at the time that we left Egypt, right, that we were redeemed, the Geula, Yitziat Mitzrayim, the Exodus from Mitzrayim, we were 600,000. So we have a very interesting numerical development. Was one, Yaakov. Started with Yaakov. There were really three. Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Right? Left, center. Three. That one, Yaakov, had how many sons? 12. 12 sons. Right? How many members were there to Yaakov's family when he descended into Mitzrayim, into Egypt? So you might not know, but it says in the Chumash there were 70. So we developed from 3 to 12 to 70. Those 70 were the seed that was planted into the womb of Mitzrayim, that 210 years later, there was born out of that 600,000, a nation with 600,000 males over the age of 20. What that probably means is that there were 600,000 family units. It's hard to believe that someone over the age of 20 was not married at the time of the Chumash, right? Probably that's what it means. There were 600,000 male Jews over the age of 20, which probably means 600,000 family units. That's the number of the Jewish people that left Mitzrayim. There's a significance to those numbers. A Yud. Did we speak about this? I don't think so.
The point line in
the point, the line in the plane.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
That
the hay.
and the hay. Right. So a point is one. Right? Again, there is no such thing in our world. You can't hold on to a point. Has no length, no width. That's the definition of a point. A line is also something that you can't picture in your mind. If there's no width to it, you can't see it. The first thing you can see is a two-dimensional form, right? The two-dimensional form has four sides, right? Where do we get the number 6 from? A cube. Three-dimensionality has 6 sides to it. That's the 600,000 Jews. Each 100,000 is a side. 6 sides. However, that's a physical body, right? What did we do after we left Egypt? The first mitzvah that we were given, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the first mitzvah that we were given was to count sphira. Do you know what that is? No? There is a mitzvah. There are 49 days in between the first day of Pesach and Shavuos. Right? There is a mitzvah to count those 49 days.
That's the counting of the Omer?
That's the counting of the Omer. Right? Sfirat HaOmer. And we don't count only 49 days, we count 7 weeks, right? If you might not be familiar with the way we count, but let's say on day 8, we say, today is the 8th day of the Omer, which is 1 week and 1 day. And that's the way we count the whole way. We count weeks and days, right? So we left 6, right? We counted 7, not just 7, 7 times 7, and then we reached day 8, which was 50. That's the bigger 8 after 7 times 7. And what happened on the 50th day? The Torah was given. That's Shavuot. That's Shavuos. Right? So we left 6, we counted 7, and we reached 8, at which point, what is the significance of the number 8? The significance of the number 8 is that God created the world in 7 days. He actually created for 6 days, but in a 7-day framework. The 7th day was Shabbos, right? So God counted 7, again 7, again 7. That's how time is divided. Weeks, right? It's a fascinating thing just to note, parenthetically, where does the week come from? It's almost universally accepted, a 7-day week. Where does it come from? There's nothing a month, the moon makes a revolution around the earth once every 29 and a half days. That's where a month comes from, right? A year, good. A year comes from, because the earth makes every 365 days, makes a revolution around the sun. A day is the earth turns on its axis in 24 hours. So there's a day, there's a month, and there's a year. Where does a week come from? There's nothing in the heavens that indicates a week. It is probably the greatest proof of the creation of the world. If one does not believe in creation, one should stop counting weeks. He should start counting maybe by 10. He should have a period of 10 days of, I don't know what he should have,
Well,
but,
well, how else would you divide up a month?
30 days, 29 and a half days.
Oh, like every day would have its own day? Instead of Monday,
That's
Tuesday,
right.
Wednesday?
That's right. We'd have
One day, Tuesday,
Sunday,
3 days,
Monday,
4 days.
Tuesday, Wednesday. Right?
Fortnight.
Then we'd have a day Tuesday, day Wednesday. Yeah, we'd figure out names already.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
I mean, it is a multiple, though, of the,
What,
it's
7?
divisible. 7, yes. I mean,
But there's nothing in nature that indicates the week. There's nothing in nature. The first thing in nature, is, of course, is a day. That's an astronomical, factual reality. The Earth revolves on its axis every 24 hours, plus a little bit, and the moon revolves around the Earth every 29 and a half days, and the Earth revolves around the sun, makes a revolution around the sun every 365 days. That's a year, a month, and a day. The week has its source only in creation. It's probably, to anyone who's prepared to be intellectually honest, it's probably the greatest proof to creation. There is such a thing. Where did the world get the week from? Just somebody thought of it. That's it. That's Shabbos. That's the week. So good. So we have our significant numbers. We had 3 fathers, and then we had 12 tribes, and then we were 70, a family with 70 members. That family was planted into the womb of Mitzrayim and was born out 600,000, right? But that's only physical container. It only had 6 sides. We counted 7 and escaped the confinement of the natural world, of the dimensional world, rose to the 8, which is above nature, and that's when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the Torah and put the neshama into us. That's when the Jewish people acquired their neshama. They acquired their body when they left Egypt. That's when it's like a little baby. We were born. We counted 7 to internalize the element of sanctity within physicality. We then rose above nature to 50, to the 50th day, which is the big 8, which is above and beyond the natural world. And that's when HaKadosh Baruch Hu put the neshama into us. That was our Heilige Torah. That was the Torah that we received on the 50th day.